Well, should we do this?
Let's do it.
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of...
Editing?
No. Well, yeah, that too. What are they called? Aftertakes?
Bloopers.
Bloopers. For sure, there's going to be some bloopers. Welcome, everyone, to episode 1 of season 1. Do you have seasons
Building
on
Grit.
Building Grit.
Yes, season 1.
Season 1, episode 1. We're finally doing this. I'm Cam Gamble, and this is my lovely host, Jen. She is my sun and rain, my fire and ice. A little crazy, but it's nice.
I'm also his wife.
She's the mother of 5 children and my wife. Very important note. Super happy to be doing this. I know we've had a lot of potential roadblocks in doing this, mostly my attitude. So let's get into this a little bit because we are calling our podcast Building Grit.
Yeah.
What is it? What is grit? What is it to you?
Why do you have to start out with
All
me?
right, I'll go first. Building grit. So grit to me is a muscle. Grit to me is something that you build in different phases of your life when things get tough and rough and you feel like there's no hope in sight. So grit to me is if you're willing to build those muscles, like anybody who goes and is in a stressful situation will either break down or they'll get stronger. And if you feed yourself the right things, you can ultimately become stronger. And so looking back over our lives, I can see where things were so hard for us, so difficult. I mean, we've been refined by the fires of hell. And those moments of being refined, we've fed ourselves the right things afterwards to nourish ourselves. And it's given us the ability to grow who we are. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's my definition. And there's more to it. And we'll definitely jump into that as we go in this podcast. But what is it for you?
Well, I think that for me, it's really easy to give a definition of grit, right? You can get online and you can look up grit. It's an acronym. It can stand for a bunch of different things. But for me, I try to think outside the box a lot and make it more personal. So grit for me isn't something that you can buy. Like we live in a day and an age where everybody just wants something and they want it now. They have that microwave mentality. I want to be strong. I want to be able to go chase after my dreams. I want to be a successful person, but they want to know the quick fix. The
secret to success.
The secret to success. And what I've learned, so it's not really a definition, it's more of an experience. What I've learned over the last 20-ish years being married to you is that grit can't be bought. So you can be listening to this podcast, you can buy all the self-development books that you want, personal development books, but you can't buy grit. Grit is something that you can only develop over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it reminds me of what Jim Rohn said. He said, success isn't something you can own, it's something you have to rent, and rent is due every single day.
Right. So grit to me is built. And not a lot of people are born with grit. I don't think anybody's born with grit. Even someone, I think there are people that are, I think that people like you, Cam, can develop grit
early on.
I think that some people can learn grit a lot easier.
I have a propensity towards hard situations and building grit. Like I'm made that way.
Right. He has perseverance. So I think that there are a select few of people. You're going to have to edit some of this out.
We're editing nothing. No, I get what you're saying. You're saying that some people learn it the easy way, and some people learn it the hard way.
Well, right, yeah. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So some, our followers that have been following us for the last 18 months on our Instagram account can look at you and go, wow, like Cam is hardcore. He never gives up. I don't know if I can ever be that way. For Cam, his DNA is grit. He learns it a lot easier. Where me, I feel like grit has been developed slowly over the last 20 years, and I'm still developing grit. So I guess my point in sharing all of this is encouragement to our listeners that, one, grit can't be bought. So if you just want to go out and try to buy it quickly and listen to a podcast or go to a seminar, fill in the blank, that's great. And I think it'll give you tools. But the real true grit is going to be built in your life circumstances.
It's going to come from experience.
It's going to be walking through the fires of hell. It's going to be given to you when life throws you the sucker punches that you weren't ready for. It's going to be in the nitty gritty. And I wasn't trying to do like a pun on words.
You just quoted Nacho Libre. In the nitty gritty.
I think that sounds Scottish to me.
That was not Scottish. That was south of the border, babe.
No, I don't think so. So just encouragement that wherever you are in your life, that you will be able to pull that out and take that experience and develop that grit.
Okay, so to your point, what qualifies us? We've been married 20 years. We've known each other for 30 years. Is that right? Yeah, 42. We met when we were 12, 30 years.
Yeah.
What qualifies us to be able to share with people the successes, failures, and lessons learned of this life? I mean, I would say for me, I have a PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. Like I've really had to learn hard lessons that have shaped me, and I've paid attention to those. Some lessons, they take much longer for them to sink in, but I have 20 plus 30 years, 42 years really of getting it wrong,
right, and
getting it right. Mostly I got it wrong. And a lot of people look at that as, well, you have failed so much. But the reality is through my failures, through my suffering, they look at those as negative things. That's where I was refined. That's where the grit came for me, is that emotional feeling of whatever it is to change myself, to say, this sucks. I never want to repeat this again. What do I have to learn? What tools do I have to take to the next thing?
Right.
And that's what we want to share with people. Our 20 years together as a married couple, our 30 years of knowing each other, and then our 42, 43 years of life.
Right.
Because we've had our own experiences to where, you've faced hardship at a very young age that I will never experience. I've never had to experience as a child.
Right.
That's a value you can bring to people that something I can't.
Right. And I think that it's important for our listeners to know that we're not just going to be sharing our stories, but we're also going to be sharing the tools that we've acquired over the years and give you the tools not only to use in your own life, but also to recognize whether you've walked through something in the past or you're walking through something now, or equip you for the future. So that's one of at least my heart with this podcast is to be able to equip people with the right tools to either look in the past, carry right now, or look towards the future when something does happen. Because even if someone's listening that maybe they've never walked through a catastrophe, or they've never had loss, or they've never had a dream shift or stolen,
stripped away. It's important to be prepared for that. So, very few people, though, have had a pretty good life. Most everybody that I know and everybody that has ever engaged with us, they've all suffered somewhere.
Right.
So very few people have not experienced dreams being stripped away, even to the point someone messaged you the other day and they said, dreams aren't real. Like this is fake. The reality is, no, it's not. And we'll jump into that particular subject in a later podcast.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I think that, and
for me too, if I look back over my life, why did I build grit? What got me through those hard times? And it was several things, but one of the things was there's these reminders. You call them mantras. You call them whatever they are to people. For me, it was remembering things that have already been written, things that have already been said from people who have already gone through the loss. I remember my dad always saying, son, learn from my mistakes. Right. We say the same things to our kids. Learn from the mistakes we made in the past. Well, that's all well and good. They're going to need to go make their own mistakes. But what they can do is when they make those mistakes, remember the tools that we gave them to get through those mistakes.
Right. And a great example of that is, and we won't go into too much detail, is our son and a decision that he's making right now. We were, I don't know how we can say it without giving too many details, but we were able to point back to something that we walked through, a dream totally ripped, and it's something that we'll share with you guys because it's part of our story. But we were able to take those tools that we learned and pass them along, give that wisdom to our son. And I think that for him, he was able to relate a lot better and maybe not go through, because it's not that everything that we're going to talk about, it's not to prevent you from going through trial and loss. Like, life is hard no matter what, if you're prepared, if you're not prepared. It's just sometimes life is going to suck. But I think that if you have the right tools and if you have wisdom surrounding that it could at least not make you feel like you're burning up, which I've felt before.
Yeah, and I'll just give you like a quick couple of tools here. One of them is, I always think, look, everything we're sharing is our perspective. Jen has her own perspectives. I have my own perspectives. But one of my perspectives that always gets me through is the perspective of, as hard as my life is in this moment, there's somebody out there that has it worse than me.
Yeah, you always said that.
Yeah, and there are people that would trade their life in a nanosecond for my life. Somebody who's in their final days of living, who regrets the decisions they made. Somebody who's in a hospital dying of sickness right now. And I'm always trying to be mindful of that. So that makes me appreciate more what I have. But I also remember, and I liken myself to certain stories I've heard. And my favorite story is the donkey in the well.
Yeah.
Right. So when I'm going through a hard time and I feel like the world's coming down on me, I remember this story of, and I don't even know where I heard it from.
I don't know, but you've been saying it for a while.
Yeah. So therefore it's mine, I think. I think after a certain time, if you forget who said it to you, you get to...
And then they sue us because
Copyright 2023. All right, so here's the story. There was a donkey that fell into a well, and the farmer comes out and he finds this donkey in the bottom of the well. You know the story, but these people may not. And the donkey, the farmer is scratching his head over, how do I get my donkey out of the well? He invites his farmer friends over, and the advice they give is just put the poor thing out of its misery and bury it alive. So they all take shovels and they're throwing. And by the way, the well is dry. All right. So they're throwing dirt on top of this donkey, and they're trying to just put it out of its misery. Well, life can be that way. People will come around, and they will get these ideas to bury you alive.
And sometimes their idea is coming from the best intentions, which is kind of the scariest part.
Yeah, that's true.
The best intention is just put the donkey out of his misery.
Yeah.
Let's just kill him off. So that's kind of something new I just pulled out that from this story that I've heard probably 100 times.
I already knew it. So here's how the rest of the story goes. For every shovel load that hit the donkey's back, the donkey would just shake it off and step up. And eventually, there was enough dirt thrown on top of him, and he shook it off enough to where he stepped out of the well. And I feel like that's been my life over and over and over again in situations to where...
Why is it every time you tell that story, I get emotional? I feel like I'm going to cry.
It's supposed to make you cry. And that's... So I think about those types of things, and I remember, like, okay, when the going gets tough, this is how I get through it. I shake it off and I step up, and I shake it off and I step up. It's not about being down. People can be down. It's about how quick you can get up and keep moving forward.
Right.
When you get down and you stay down, that's when it can end for you.
Right. And I think another important part of that story is that donkey didn't just step out of the well. He had to step up. So sometimes it's just taking one step at a time to get through the day. There's going to be days where it's so stinking hard that you're going to want to give up. You're going to want to curl in a fetal position, at least coming from my perspective. There's been times in our marriage, times in our life, times when we're pursuing dreams that I want to, and literally will go in the bedroom and curl up in a fetal position and not want to do anything. And it's been those times that Cameron always reminds me, it's not bad that you're down, Jen. Feel what you need to feel, but don't stay down. And so I love that part of the story where the donkey just didn't, walk out. And so it's a good reminder for us that when we are walking through and we do feel like life is throwing all of the dirt on top of us, that to take one step at a time.
Yeah, I love that.
One step up.
One step up. Sometimes it's a couple steps up and it's 3 or 4 steps back.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so let's get into a couple things here. One is why we're doing a podcast is...
let's talk about why we started. Like, because I think that there's going to be a lot of people that know kind of our story from our Instagram.
Yeah, but it's in pockets, you know. It's not deep.
Right. But what I was saying is then we're going to have people that are just listening to our podcast that are like, wait, you have an Instagram account? What have you been doing the last 18 months? So I think it's important to kind of give that short background of how, I mean, our entire marriage has brought us to this point of doing this podcast. But really the last 18 months, why don't you kind of talk about, let people briefly know what we've been doing the last 18 months?
Well, 18 months ago, I bought a farmhouse for Jen.
I didn't know he bought it for me, by the way.
And look, that's also important to know. Where are we sitting? We're sitting in the foyer of our house right now. And I set this up because we're letting you into a deeper part of our lives. And 18 months ago, really this journey that we're on now started right here, right through that door. Well, it was a little different looking door at the time.
Yeah,
but we're
I don't know. Can you put like pictures on? Like,
sure. You can
okay.
do anything you want.
Yeah, we'll do a like before picture.
Yeah. So I wanted to start it here and just give you guys a glimpse into where we're taking this and why we're taking it in the direction we are, because I didn't want to do social media. I didn't want any part of it, really. Jen wanted to do it to document our journey, which is awesome, and it's turned into us being able to touch the lives of so many people and encourage them. And
well, also I wanted to do it to show the reality of what it takes to do what we were doing, because so many times we don't have cable, don't watch TV, we stream things. It's not like we're anti-show,
well,
but
The Office has gotten us through some really dark times.
That is true. If you were in a dark time, tip of the week is watch The Office and you will laugh.
And if you're in a dark time, don't watch Yellowstone, because you'll go into even darker times and start killing your neighbors for your property.
No comment. So yeah, I thought it was important to show what would it look like if we show a real life behind the scenes a farmhouse restoration, and show the nitty gritty of it. Again, I use that. I don't know. I never even used that term, and I've used it twice already. To encourage other people, because I think we live in you hear me say this a lot if you follow us on Instagram. We do a lot of behind the scenes story. A lot of people on social media show the good, they show the perfect, they show the after shots, which is great and inspiring. But what I think is more inspiring, at least personally, is when I see the struggle, I see the ugly, I see the bad, and then I see what they've overcome to get what they have, whether it's a dream, whether it's restoring a house. And so that was kind of my heart behind starting Flat Rock Farms 1907 on Instagram, is just to show, and we do a lot of that behind the scenes in our stories. So you'll see a lot of reels, but behind the scenes, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, and this podcast is just taking things deeper, because I think we've stepped into the realization that we have a calling. I always say, what are you doing for the world? And we've said this before, and maybe it's a little cheesy, maybe it's not, but we can't be all the good the world needs, but the world needs all the good we can be. And you have to be responsible with what you've been given in life, and not just hoard it and keep it for yourself, but to share it with others, because that's, the world needs as many good people in it as possible. That's why we're raising our kids the way we're raising them. We are raising good humans to respect and love others, even if they have differing values and opinions and viewpoints. And so,
sometimes that takes grit, guys.
Oh, that takes a lot of patience, especially in today's world.
Where everybody's on, you can sit behind a keyboard and shoot your opinion and say and not be held accountable to anything.
Yeah.
We want to kind of raise the bar even on how people respond online.
For sure. So Flat Rock Farms 1907 is our Instagram. Flat Rock Farms 1907 is also our YouTube channel. And we'll get into those details at the end of this podcast, because at the end of this podcast, we probably should have said this at the beginning of the podcast, we have a huge announcement.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have been following us on Instagram, you know what that announcement is. For those of you who don't, stay tuned to the end of this. And anyways, so here we are, 18 months of this journey of restoring this farmhouse. If I had known then what I know now, would I have purchased the farmhouse for my wife? I'm undecided. I don't know. I think so. It was a lot of work. This has been...
It's still a lot of work.
This has been one of the hardest things I've ever done. And it's like, really? I mean, when you hear our stories, and we'll get into some of it here.
Because we're doing, just to be clear, we're doing everything ourselves, and we're not just gutting an old farmhouse and restoring it, or we're actually restoring it. So we're saving everything that was original to the 1800s.
As much as we can.
As much as we can. And what we have to replace, we are really trying to keep that character. And when you do that, it's a lot different than just gutting an old house and putting up everything new.
Yeah, for sure.
So...
okay, so this journey has been 18 months of restoring this farmhouse, but the journey has really been 20 years of trials and tribulations and loss and wins. And so let's get into that. We'll be very topical with this because the following episodes will dive deeper into just the hell we've been through.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been easy. And we're also going to tie into what we're announcing at the end of this and why it's so near and dear to our hearts in terms of what we're doing, because we've been through a lot, really have. And so it begins as children, but we'll jump to the marriage part. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so 20 years now, over 20 years we've been married. I was in the military, I was in the Air Force. I went in as an enlisted aviator to fly, and after a year of being in that career field, I had a problem with my eyes and it disqualified me.
And this, just a little bit more background. This is after a year of intense training.
Yeah.
This is a year of, and Cameron won't say this, but this is a year of him giving his absolute best for a dream that he's had since he's been a little boy, to fly. This is a year after him studying endless hours and sacrificing and graduating to the top of his class, being promoted 6 months early below the zone because of, just his never give up, positive attitude. So I think that's important to know. It wasn't just like, well, I was, training for a year and then this thing happened. It was given 110%. And then what happened?
Well, what happened was I couldn't fly because of my eyes. And it was interesting the way it went down, too. You talk about dreams crushed. I was called into my chief's office, and he had an order that said remove my flight wings.
Right.
He assumed I got into trouble. He hands me a knife, makes me cut them off and throw them into the trash can. And then that was quickly resolved, I will say. My commanding officer and my flight instructors got involved real quick. That was corrected. But then I was placed on details because they didn't know what to do. So I went from the tip of the spear, flying, to I was mopping floors and scrubbing toilets and pulling pubes out of urinals and, showing up to the commander's house at 3 o'clock in the morning to shovel snow out of his walkway so he could get to his car to get to work on time. I did anything and everything that they asked of me. And that was when I was promoted. It was during that time period, which is wild because I was in this limbo status. I just decided I was going to show up. I decided it wasn't going to let me down. The situation was hard. It sucked. We had our moments, but I was resolved in it. And I just said, look, whatever is upon me, I'm going to shake it off and I'm going to step up. And so we did. And we thought...
Well, I didn't clean the toilets at home.
Did.
But
yeah, I've done I don't clean toilets here because I had to do it in the military, so therefore I'm no longer qualified.
You've paid your dues.
I paid my dues. So then things you would think would get better because people are noticing that your efforts are going a long ways. You're being promoted. I was given an achievement award. Like, it was crazy. And then all of a sudden they made me a bus driver.
Right. Well, no, they said, go ahead and pick a different job.
Oh, that's right.
And so we sat down and we studied, where would we want to go? What jobs would be, how could you serve your country the best? So we picked 3 jobs?
SEER. And
I forgot about that.
I was going to become a survival, evasion, resistance, and escape instructor because I had been through the program. I graduated September 11th, 2002, to give you some time frame, from SEER.
Yeah.
And that was a requirement to go through. I didn't enjoy it. It was really, parts of it I enjoyed, but For those of you who don't know what it is, it's basically teaching people how to survive if they fall behind enemy lines.
Right.
Through interrogation and exploitation and on and on and on.
Cam's a bad guy.
Well, no, they were the bad guys. They did it to me first.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well,
I was given the green light to go do that, and then I got a kidney stone. So it disqualified me. So then they made me a bus driver.
that's right.
And-
No, then we picked a different job. Then we went back through
I
the
don't even remember. It was
process.
20 years ago.
They said, "Oh, wait, we are going to give you a job based on critically manned positions."
Yeah, and so ultimately I became a bus driver. I was the only bus driver in the Air Force with a top secret SCI clearance. That's no joke. Ironically, as fate would have it, they transferred us from McGuire Air Force Base out to Fairchild Air Force Base, which just happened to be the SEER School military base
That you went to prior.
that I went to prior and that I was trying to get to. So I made a lot of connections with the SEER guys. And I went from graduating first in my class in flight school to now I was taking guys that were in my flight school and driving them on a bus out to the aircraft and watching them take off and fly. So it was just like adding salt into my wound. I did this for a year.
Yeah.
And then some chiefs had found out my story, and I continued to excel, even as a bus driver. It wasn't hard in that career field to excel. But I was given another chance. And this chief said, "Man, I heard your story. This is ridiculous. The Air Force has spent millions of dollars on your training. We want you reevaluated." I was reevaluated, and I was given a waiver.
Yeah.
And so Jen and I began to box up all of our household belongings, and they're shipping us back out to McGuire Air Force Base so I can go fly again. Several days later, I get a phone call from the flight doc, and he said, "I've never seen this before. I'm so sorry, but somebody took your waiver away."
You can't make this stuff up, guys.
So I lost it again. At that point, we decided it was time to get out of the military. And as soon as we got out, we'll get into some other stuff later on. But should we tell them what I became right then, or no? No, I don't think so. I think there's more to this that we can talk about later. But
Yeah, I think that just know that everything that we're sharing is going to be more dived into. Like we're going to really dissect what we've went through so we can share tools.
I'll add this because this is full circle. The way we met, we were 12 years old, and I was cleaning stalls on her aunt and uncle's horse ranch. So every day I would shovel the manure out of the stalls as a kid. And then I get out of the military. I have a top secret clearance.
Honorably discharged, by the way.
Yes. Well, why else?
I don't know. It's because some people ask weird questions.
Oh, yeah. I was honorably discharged. Full medical benefits, the whole 9 yards. And so I get out, and now all of a sudden I can't provide for my family. And the only job I could get was cleaning horse stalls. That's no joke. You can't make that up. And it was a very humbling experience, but it never mattered the job I was in or what I was doing, whether I was cleaning manure or flying on an airplane. I always had this attitude of be successful. Whatever you're putting your hand to, try to be successful in it. And Jim Rohn, I'll reference him again, but he said, if you take out trash, you're worth $5 an hour. But if you whistle while you take out trash, you're worth $6. And that goes into your attitude. What are you doing? What's the task at hand? And do you have a good attitude in it? Because I've had a lot of jobs I have hated.
Yeah.
But I try to have a good attitude. And I feel like that's how life promotes you, whether it be a person or yourself, promotes you to the next level.
Yeah.
So full circle, I'm back out of the military doing the thing I did when I was 12 years old. That was hard.
But you did have the girl.
I did have the girl.
Now you had the girl.
I didn't have the girl at the time. I had the girl this time. And so I don't know how deep you want to go with this.
I don't know. I mean, it's our podcast, so whatever.
It is our podcast.
What is your soul knowing?
Well, I don't think we need to jump all around today.
Right.
I think this is a good introduction, and we can take this thing as we go. So what's our point in this and sharing this?
Well, the point was we were going to share major events in our life to show why we are qualified to talk about grit.
Oh, that's right.
Remember?
Yeah, our PhDs in grit. We have story after story after story of these types of things happening to us. And here's the beauty of it. 20 years this side of those types of things happening, even recently.
Well, let me say something that you always say to me. Things don't happen
To you,
to me,
they happen
for me.
That's right.
So that's important. You had just said all of these things happening to us, and I'm like, but Cam says
I do. So you have to look at the gift in it. We talk about this all the time. What's the gift in everything you've gone through? And that's, I'm so glad you brought that up. Things don't happen to us, they happen for us.
Right.
If I have the perspective of them happening to me, I become victim to everything that happens to me.
right.
Everything that goes on in my world, I'm a victim of it. Oh, this happened, and this is why I am the way that I am. If I look at what happens, everything that happens in life happens for me, then it's to my advantage,
Right.
not my disadvantage.
Right. Then you're walking in power and not weakness.
That's right. Yeah, I love that. And we do find the gift. And look, this isn't...
Finding the gift isn't easy, by the way. So some of you will be and relate to Cam and his perspective, and it'll be really easy for you to be optimistic and the glass is half full, and easy to find the gift, easy to pick it out. Some people will maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? Relate to me a little bit better, where you really have to work hard. You lean more towards finding what's going wrong and not what's going right. What, the glass half empty, pessimistic. But anybody can do it. If I can do it, you guys can do it. If Cam, so just know that it might be easy for you to find the gift and it might be really hard, but there is always a gift, but you have to choose to find it.
Yeah, because those events that have taken place in your life, they have made you who you are and what you are, but you always have the ability to change who you are and what you are. Like, human beings are the only ones who can be on a course this direction one day and say, no, I don't want to go that direction anymore. I want to go this way.
Right.
And you do that by being, for me anyways, it's been by being positive, by looking at the gift in life, by knowing that I'm the one in charge here, not my circumstances. You can only control what you focus on. I can't control what happens externally, but I can absolutely control where I put my energy when things are going on.
Right. And again, that is hard for me to do, but it's possible.
Well, that's why God brought us together. We balance each other so well. Sometimes I need your pessimistic attitude to keep me in check, because optimistic people have a tendency to be overzealous and to think of only the good and see only the positive outcome, when there's red flags all over the place that someone like Jen can say, hey, do you see this? Do you see the warning signs? I'm like, nope. I'm like the Lego guy. Everything is awesome.
Oh my God.
I can be. What's his name? Emmett? Yeah, I'm Emmett.
I think so.
And so there's that balance in a married couple to where it's necessary for both.
Man, we're hitting everything today, aren't we?
No, we're not. Look, I'm a deep, deep well, Jen. There's so much more.
I knew when we did a podcast, I knew that no matter if we had an outline or not, that Cam was, even if we talked about, okay, we're not going to go too deep into telling certain stories, I knew it was going to happen.
It's necessary.
But it's really good. Like, I love learning from Cam, and I hear his stories all the time. A lot. But I always pick up something new from it. So I'm excited not only for our listeners to glean from your wisdom and your positivity, but I get to learn too.
That's right. So how are we doing on time?
I don't know.
Has anybody kept track of time?
I don't think so.
We're at a half an hour right now.
Okay.
So we probably need to wrap this thing
Right.
up. So going back to the beginning of this, and mantras, and what are some things that have kept me going in really hard times. And one of my favorite poems of all time is Kipling's poem, If. And I've recited it to the boys to the point to where their ears have bled.
Well, you memorized it.
I did.
There was a time that we were going through, like, stripped down to nothing.
Yeah.
And you memorized that poem.
I had to. So you have to hold fast to things that can give you hope. And, hope isn't necessarily like a sound strategy, but sometimes it's all you have.
Right.
And so I latched on to things that gave me hope, even though I couldn't see it. And we talk about this all the time. We have a tendency to see what's right here, but we can't see what's beyond the problem. And I've had to become very good at solving problems. And in order to solve problems, I have to see beyond the problem. It's harder, I think, for a woman to do. And then
Well, I know some men that can't do that either.
Well, this is true. Yeah, it's true. It's just because they're tapped into their feminine. That's all.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't think
Probably
that
not.
that's true.
It's not true. We could get into that another time.
Yeah.
But to the point I'm trying to make here is this, is there are certain things that I've had to encode into my brain that have given me hope to get through these horrible situations. And we are here to give people tools. And some of those tools I think we've already given are finding the gift and just changing your language, like things happen for me, not to me. And I think one of my favorite parts of Kipling's poem is when he says, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it at one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. We've had to do that. I'm going to get emotional. We've had to do that so much to where you make a pile of everything that you've been successful in and then you lose it all. And then you have to start again. And we've done it with worn out tools. And we're trying to give people the tools they already have, but we're also trying to give them new tools because we know that a new chisel is much better than an old chisel. It's much sharper. It can do more good. And those types of things, people need hope because we know what it's like to be without it. It's a very dark place. And there's so many people hurting in this world that just need people like you and I to give them some hope, to say, you know what, you've got this. You've lived through some of the hardest moments of your life. But tomorrow the sun will come up again. Tomorrow's a new day and you decide. Nobody else, you decide who gets to show up tomorrow. What tools are you going to use to get through this thing called life? Because it's not easy, but it can be beautiful. So I hope this helps people get to that point to where they can feel some hope and say, my God, we can do this. Yeah. And we can latch on to people who have gone through the fires of hell before us, and we can take the wisdom that they have learned from those horrible experiences and turned it for good.
Yeah, there's this one quote that I heard a long time ago, and I don't remember the quote exactly, but it's something that stuck with me. And it said, basically, all of the mountains that you had to overcome, and then I'll add, and walking through the fires of hell. Share those moments and what you've learned and the tools that you've acquired, because they are going to become someone else's survival guide.
Love it.
And so for us, it's not just about sharing. It's not really about us, but it's about you guys. It's about, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. It could be, that's what I'm so excited about this podcast, is that it's not in one niche. It's not just for people rebuilding a home or, chasing a dream or going after their career or, getting your private pilot license. It can be applied. It's life. And
that's right.
Anyone can benefit, I believe, if you're open, willing to learn.
You have to do the work. Nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah. But we are here to encourage you and cheer you on and champion you and let you know that we have walked through the fires of hell and we've come out with scars on our belly, but we have come out, and now we wear those scars proudly, and we're here to help be your survival guide in those hard times or the times that are coming. Give you hope that you can do whatever you put your mind to if you never give up.
That's right. Never, ever give up. Winston Churchill. Okay, let's get into
what everybody's been waiting for. Well, not everybody knows, but
Yeah.
all the people that came over from Instagram,
all
you guys
the
have
important
been.
people now. Jen.
Well, when we do want to take time to thank all of our followers on Instagram, because, like I said, when we first started this account, it was Cameron kind of dragging his feet, didn't really want to do it. But I think the more that we got into it, he realized that it's not just about, we're a very different Instagram account where we're not doing DIY stuff. We'll share tips. We have a lot of people that will ask us questions about restoring a house or how to level a house or how to put in, custom window trim. And we don't mind doing that. We're not a DIY account. We were kind of a life account that shares the good, bad, and the ugly of everything we're doing. Farm life, raising animals, all of the things. And then it's turned into a following of a community that is honestly, and I say this all the time, I'm so grateful for our community because they're so positive. And rarely do we get trolls, which is so unheard of online because I follow accounts that, I mean, that's what they do. They complain about how people just attack them and tear them down and judge them and these nasty comments. And
you know what's interesting about that though? The few trolls that we've had, we, instead of engaging with them on a negative level when they bring that negativity,
that energy, match their energy.
Yeah, we come at them in a very positive way. And it's funny because they'll even write to us and say, wow, I wasn't expecting that response.
Right.
And now they follow us.
Right. And
That's
now
hilarious.
there are some of our biggest fans.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lesson in itself. We'll probably do a podcast on that.
Energy always wins.
It does. So it's turned into this community, and I don't think that Cam or I ever dreamed that it would become what it is. But this week was really big for us because we had 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
Which was crazy. And I think that, like, if we're just being real, I agreed to do this podcast with Cam. I said, well, when we hit 100,000, then we can do the podcast and we'll do what we're going to share with you in a minute. I didn't know it would come this quick. Like,
it's a good thing I bought all this podcast equipment about 2 or 3 months ago.
Right.
And we've been playing with it, and we have our 14-year-old behind the soundboard who's doing an amazing job. Kids are so much more advanced in technology than we are, thank God. But it did come rather quickly.
Right.
Yeah. So let's get into it. People are dying.
Yeah. So it's our 100,000 follower giveaway, and we wanted to do something that a little bit different. We didn't want to do, we spent a lot of time in intentionality. Is that a word?
It is now.
Okay. You'll hear that a lot. I like to make up words and make them my own. On what we can do for our followers. So this isn't a giveaway. Like, there's a lot of people that will say, if you help us get to 100,000 followers, then we're going to do a giveaway. Ours was, when we hit that point, if we ever hit that point, we want to do something that is special. We want to do something that is out of the box. We like to be unique anyways. We don't really like to follow trends. And, we thought about a gift card. We thought about, what else? Like doing a special like basket that has like all of our favorite things.
From Fortnum and Mason in England.
Yeah. Because we like to travel. If you're just listening, we like to travel. We thought about doing something that is kind of even around the farmhouse, like maybe building a picture frame. Like, we just thought about everything. But we wanted to do something that means something to us based on our story, because that's kind of what this podcast is about, is about sharing our story. And give someone else the opportunity to
feel what we felt in times of need.
Yes.
And feel what we felt in times of freedom, financial freedom.
Yes. So
for those of you who don't know, because we don't share this often, but we are debt-free.
Yeah.
And there's some controversy around it. I get it. Like, Robert Kiyosaki is one of my favorite guys. I love listening to his podcast, and he's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the most best-selling books of all time. And he talks about leveraging debt in order to
we even
gain
have
wealth.
his game.
We do with cash flow. It's
Yeah.
an incredible game, and I completely understand that. And I'm not saying there's not a time and a place to go into debt, but when you don't have to, don't do it, because people truly are slaves to debt, and people over leverage themselves. And so when the carpet gets pulled out from underneath their feet, now all of a sudden they are bankrupt. Ask me how I know. It's been tough, and so we made decisions years ago that we're never going to put ourselves in a place of vulnerability financially again. And so we have done this entire house, this entire project, our entire lives are debt free. We owe nobody a
right
thing.
now. Right.
Yeah. And
that is what's important to know, is that it's not always been like this. There's been times in our life where we've had nothing.
That's
absolutely
right. Yeah, and
nothing.
that's where we'll get to this. We live with this sense of freedom that we owe nobody a single thing except being good to the world. But money is a really interesting thing. It's a tool. And if you know how to use it, it can be your best friend. If you don't know how to use it, it can be your worst enemy.
Right.
But we want people in our giveaway to feel a sense of the relief and freedom that, one, we feel now by design, and two, what we felt in the past when we had nothing.
Right.
And we needed a rescue.
Right.
And we needed somebody to come in and say, here's a gift given to you, no expectations. And there were some very hard financial times, even in recent years, where things were going our way. I was building a $2.8 billion company in Africa, and then everything overnight went away. And then all of a sudden, I went from building a $2.8 billion company in the jungles of Africa
to only being able to afford Tapa Ramen for your kids. That's tough.
That's no joke. And having incredible friends and that have come in and came around us and said, what do you need? And then things showing up unexpectedly.
Yeah.
So our giveaway,
I'm so excited.
We want to pay somebody's mortgage or rent for an entire month.
Yeah.
To give you some relief, to give you some sort of feeling of, oh, here's some extra money that I can actually get ahead with, because so many people are living right at the edge of water or just below it, and they feel like they're drowning every single month. Our details on the giveaway will be on our website, camandjen.com.
Yeah.
You'll go there. It'll be very simple. There's going to be a form that you fill out. It will ask for your email, your information. Do you follow us on Instagram? Do you follow us on
Yeah, it'll
YouTube?
give all of the details, very specific things that you need to do. But the most important thing is to go to camandjen.com, and it'll bring you to the landing page. And right in the middle of the landing page is going to say, enter the giveaway, and you'll enter your email. And then we will send you the form and the specifics on what you need to do.
We want to hear a short story of look, and this is something too that if you win the giveaway, it doesn't have to be for you. Yeah. If you want to give this to somebody else that
if you want to nominate somebody else, it's
absolutely. And so the details will be on the website. In terms of how much, listen, if you have a $5,000 mortgage, you probably don't need my help.
Probably not.
And if you're struggling, you should probably sell your house. That being said, is there going to be a cap on this? At some level, but we'll take it case by case and see what it looks like for the individual.
And I think that one of the things that I'm so excited about, and I think that I have loved in our Instagram journey over the last 18 months, is hearing people's stories. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get emotional. We will share bits and pieces of our story, and then people will, in the comments, share their story, and it is moving. And so for us to hear people's stories, and I don't want people right now to be like, well, I don't really have yes, you do. Everyone has a story, and it's bigger than you think. So don't downplay your story. Don't feel like, well, I'm kind of, I'm not struggling right now, so I shouldn't everyone should enter the giveaway, because maybe not paying your mortgage or your rent for 1 month will give you the funds to go after that one dream that you thought would never be possible because you've been living paycheck to paycheck.
That's right.
Maybe it's starting a cut flower garden. Maybe it's starting a podcast. You have something to give the world. So that's one thing that's really important that I want people to understand. Everyone should be entering this giveaway, because we are looking forward to, we don't have a standard. We don't have, I think, any kind of like, well, we're looking for this type of person. And, there's no agenda with what we're looking for. We just want to hear your story, and we want to give hope to someone, because we've been in a position before where we didn't have hope, and people have stepped in and given us hope again.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So there it is. That's the 100K giveaway, not to be confused with a $100,000 giveaway.
Or a trip to Paris, or a...
That may come later, not 100,000.
I would, we already have something in the works that I think that we would love to do one day, so...
Yes, absolutely. Well, look, anything else to add?
I don't know.
I think we're about ready to be out of time.
I'm not going to ask you that question, because you'll talk for another 15 minutes.
I'm not going to add anything. I just want to say thanks to everybody for listening.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, I would like to add,
I knew it. Go ahead.
we are here. We're not sponsored by anyone.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are sponsored.
I'd like to thank me and Jen for sponsoring this episode.
So what you can do for us is subscribe to our podcast, share our podcast, follow us on the social media links, YouTube, or on TikTok, even though we don't really do things traditionally that they do on TikTok. We don't dance around, but that's how you can support us, is subscribe to us and share. If you think somebody would benefit from our podcast, be encouraged, and share the giveaway too, because maybe there's somebody out there that doesn't follow us, but they need it.